we're going to go back to talking about app anatomy here. Remember, we have a front end and a back end to our app. The question is, which do you build first? This might not seem like a groundbreaking question. Most people don't even stop to consider it and just start building wherever they subconsciously head to first. That's a mistake though, because you could just be adding unnecessary time to your development process. When building out any feature, the first place you need to start is your database. Now, technically, you can start with the front or back end of your app. Bubble lets you decide, but I really recommend starting with the database. I've found that most bubblers have an easier time organizing their data first because it gives them instant guidelines for how to design parts of their app. For example, if you know that your user data requires a first name, a last name, and a profile picture, then you know what needs to go into the design of a user profile page. If you start the other way around, by first perfecting a design and then creating your user data type, only to discover you've left out fields for phone number and birthday, then you're having to backtrack and redo the design. Of course, there will be many occasions where there is no option but to jump back and forth between the two, with design and database informing each other. But I've seen time and time again, bubblers work out most of the initial structure if they tackle the database first. Okay, I want to jump into an example. In an earlier step, we built out a simple sign-up form just to show the kind of power Bubble gives you when building apps. I want to go back and use that same example, but this time we're going to build out a full working sign-up form in the strategic order you should be building all of your features in. Okay, so I'm back in my demo app. I'm going to go over to the Data tab to start building my database. So when I'm building a sign up for, what I'm doing is creating a new user record in my database. So when I look at my data type for user, I can see that there are a few fields that Bubble has actually built in for me already. I'll always know the creation date of that user, when that user's record was modified, and the email address is already built in. I don't have to tell Bubble that I want the user to have an email address. But I want to create a few other fields for my users to save to the database. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new field. I'm going to give it a name. I want the users to store their first name. So this will be called first name. And this is a plain text field. You can see that there are actually a lot of options for the types of things that you can save in your database. So this is a text. I will go ahead and create that field. And I'm going to do the same for a last name. So this is another text field for the user to save their last name to my database. So I'll select text there and create. Now I have two custom fields for the user. This is specifically for my app. I'm going to create another field for the user to store a profile picture. So I'll give it a name of profile picture, and this one is going to be an image. So I'll select image there from the field type options and create. Great, so now my sign up form I know will need inputs for the user to type in a first name, a last name, and upload a profile picture. They'll also need to provide an email address. That's a requirement anytime you want to create users in your Bubble database. So let's go over back to the Design tab and create our form. So I'm going to add an input element, so I'll select the input from my elements list on the left here. I'm going to click on this and drag and drop on the page. Okay, so I'll give this one a placeholder of email address. I'm going to tell Bubble that this is an email. It's a special type of input, so we got to tell Bubble specifically to recognize this as an email address. I'm going to right-click my input and click copy, and right-click the page to paste it, so I have a duplicate input here. And this is going to be for the password, because they're signing up for the first time, so they need to create their password so that they can log in going forward. And this is also a special type of input, so we got to tell Bubble, hey, this is going to be a password. You need to make sure and mask it when they're typing it in so that they can't see. I'm going to paste again this input so that I can have another copy for the first name. So this placeholder will be first name. Again, these placeholders are just helper text. It's just to let the user know what they need to type into these fields. Now this is just a regular text, so I'm going to change that type format there to text. And I'm going to paste another input. And you can see here how I'm building my form, putting it together, all of the fields I need based on the data fields I created in the data tab for the user data type. So this is the last name, and this is also text, so I can leave that one the way it is. All right, so I have email, password, first name, and last name. If I go back to my data tab, check on my user data type, I have everything except for the profile picture. So I like to go back and make sure that I'm taking care of everything with the design, making sure I'm addressing all of the fields that I need. So it looks like I'm missing the profile picture, which is an image. So I'm going to go ahead and add a picture uploader. This is a specific type of input so that users can upload their photos from their computers. So I'm going to select picture uploader and draw this kind of centered here in my form. And I'm going to adjust the placeholder just a little bit. Click to upload your profile picture so that they know exactly what this photo uploader is for and where that picture is going to go. It's going to go to their profile. Now all I need is a button to trigger the creation of this new user in my database. So I'm going to go scroll back up to the top here to my visual elements, and I'm going to select the button element. So I'll click that and add this to the bottom of my form. Okay, so we're going to label the button sign up. Great. So now that I have all of my inputs for all of the fields in my user data table here, I can now connect these visual elements with my database with a workflow. A workflow is essentially me telling Bubble exactly what I want to happen when a user clicks this button. Just because I've labeled the button sign up doesn't mean that Bubble knows what to do with the user. It doesn't know that it needs to create a new user record. So I'm going to click this button here. In the property editor, Bubble makes it very easy for you to begin a workflow from a button. So I'm going to start edit workflow, and you can see I've been taken over to the workflow tab now, right? So the database was under the data tab, the design is under the design tab, and now I'm in the workflow tab. This is where I'm going to connect the two. All right, so Bubble has created the first trigger for me on this page with this button. When the button sign up is clicked, we want something to happen. If this, then that. So here you can see I can click here to add an action anytime the button sign up is clicked. So I'm going to click here, and Bubble has a lot of actions. You can see there's a big list of them and they're broken up by categories. We're just going to look at the actions under the account type. There's really a lot you can do. I'm going to select the very first action, sign the user up, because that's what I'm doing. I've built a sign up form, and what I want Bubble to do when they click that button is to sign the user up. I'm going to move my property editor closer over here. And so what I have is a little form that I need to fill out so that Bubble can run this action properly. Bubble tells you exactly what it needs in order to run the action. So in order to sign the user up, I need to provide an email address. Well, great. I have an input on my page here for an email address. So I want this action to say, take whatever the user typed into here and put it in this action so we know what the email address is. So I'm going to click here, and you can see this big list of options that I can choose from. I want to find the value of that input email address. A value can be a lot of different things. It can be anything that's on the page, any input that's on the page, such as the first name, the last name. It can also be pulled from information about the logged in user. It can be generic things like the current date and time. A value is just some unknown that can change. So we're going to point to where that that value exists for this email address. So I'm going to go back to the input email address and take its value. For the password, I want the value of the input password. So those are the two required values necessary to sign a user up. With these alone, I can have a user created in my database. But I specifically for my app want to also save the first and last name and that profile picture. So I'm going to add a few more fields. I'm going to click this button to change another field, and I'll click here where it's highlighted in red. And you can see here are my custom fields that I have created for the user record. So I'm going to just start at the top. First name equals, so I'll click in here again. I'll click to insert dynamic data because I don't know what the user's first name is going to be, so I have to choose a value to set to the first name. I could type in directly a name if I wanted, but that means that every time a user signs up, it will always be saved as this static name here, which is not what I want. So I'm going to remove that, and I want to insert dynamic data and pull from the input first name. I'm going to get rid of that extra space here. And I'm going to I'm going to do the same thing for the last name. Input last name value. And one more time, we're going to add another field for our profile picture. And this is going to equal the value of our picture uploader. You can see that if I hover over it, it'll show you a little preview of the input too to help you find what you're looking for. These pages can really grow to have a lot going on them, so it's very important to have everything labeled properly and stay organized. So now with this action, I can sign the user up with their email and password and save their first, last, and profile picture. I'm going to preview the page now. By clicking on the upper right corner here, this preview button will open up the front end of the page as if I were a user visiting this application and actually interacting with the page. You can see now I can actually work with it and type in values of my own. So this is a complete preview of the design that I've created. I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. The email will be gabby@coachingnocodeapps.com. My password, we're just going to do test. You can see how Bubble has masked the password by putting dots instead of the actual characters. And then for first name, Gabby, last name, Roman. And I'm going to upload a quick profile picture. When I click on this, it's going to open up my Finder window so that I can choose a file from my computer. I'm just going to select a picture here for my profile picture and then click the Sign Up button. You can see the loading bar at the top of the screen means something's going on. I have a plugin here to remember my passwords. I'm just going to hit Not Now there. Now I've run the action. So I'm going to go back to my Bubble editor and then back to the Data tab and head over to App Data to check on my user database. So if I select All Users, this will show me all of the actual user records that were created as a result of that sign up action. You can see here that this user record that I just created went through perfectly. The email address is there, the first name, last name, and my profile picture, and we even have a date and time stamp for when that happened. If I open this up, I can see the values a little bit better here. I can open up the picture in a separate tab to see the full picture. And I can see that everything went through great. Previewing a page, especially after you design a workflow, is the best way to test and make sure that what you're building is actually working in the way that you want. Bubble gives you a really handy tool to help you test your pages that you're designing. There's a debugger tool that shows up at the bottom here. You can see this toolbar down here. Your users won't ever see this. This is more for you to make sure that everything's functioning properly. A really great way to test this sign-up form is if I run the debugger in this step-by-step mode. And I can hit sign up, while it's in the step-by-step mode, and it will slow down my sign-up process so that I can see exactly what's happening step by step. So it's paused the workflow to show me, okay, we've recognized that the button sign up has been clicked. If I go to click Run Next, it'll show me, great, here is the sign up action. Here are the values that we are going to insert for the new user record. So you can see it's actually pulling everything from my fields that I entered on the page. There's my email, there's my first and last name. Now, Bubble's actually going to give me an error in a minute because I've already signed up a user with this email address. Let me click on Not Now there. So I'm going to hit Run Next, and there's my error. This email is already in use, and it'll tell me exactly the email address. Usually when you run into an issue like this, Bubble is pretty clear with the error that's happening. So this one tells me that this user already exists. I can go back to my database and check to see when that user was created and if they need to be removed, or if I just need to adjust the email address for the new user I'm creating. This entire process of creating your database, designing your page, and then building the workflows to connect the front end and the back end is a simple 1, 2, 3 step process you can follow for all of your features going forward. Once you preview the page, you can test to make sure that everything is working the way that you need. But those are the 3 big areas that you can check if something isn't working right. From there, you pretty much just rinse and repeat for the next features. So you'd go back to your Moscow matrix and find the next must-have or should-have and would repeat the same process.